We're going to dive into the deep end.
Hello and welcome to If These Heels Could Talk. I'm Georgina with Solutions by Georgina.
And I'm Michelle with Bad Cat Digital. And today we are talking about healthy relationship expectations in a way that Georgina is not prepared for in any way, shape, or form.
So this is healthy relationship.
So I'm setting the expectations.
Yep.
You have low Okay. So, but here's the kicker. Because she wanted more surprise. You wanted more surprise. You wanted me to bring more surprise. Okay. Bring it. Okay. It's being brought. So we have at If These Heels stayed pretty studiously away from interpersonal men versus women kinds of conversations.
We're really going off.
We're gonna really go off because here's the thing, and this is the thing. I don't know about you, Georgina, but I didn't want to play into the trope of the angry feminist, in business who hates men and blah 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 blah. But there are some things that we can't ignore anymore. So, there are some things. So there was an article that a lot of people are talking about online from Psychology Today earlier this month. And the title of the article, you may have read it, especially if you are also a fan of If These Heels Could Talk. The title of the article is The Rise of Lonely Single Men. And here's the gist of it. The gist of it is that the expectations for men to be emotionally available, connected, and have an emotional intelligence, an EQ, if you will, that expectation has risen pretty exponentially, I would say, in the last 3 decades. And while men are, research shows, and the article talks about this, men are happier and healthier when they are paired. Heterosexual men, happy and healthier when they are paired or in a partnership. Women are not.
Interesting.
Okay. So the concept being this, a lot of middle-aged and younger men are struggling to find long-term partners because they don't have the skills to maintain the long-term partnership that their partner wants.
Yeah. Like I have single, like my mom's single, like
right. So that's what the article's about. And it's about addressing skills deficits to meet healthier relationships expectations. So that's what I wanted to kind of talk about today, because here's my challenge with this. My challenge with this isn't the fact of it, because I think it's true. I was divorced and then dated again in my mid 30s, and did end up getting remarried. But I was picky.
Oh, there's not.
And you've been divorced and you remarried. And were you picky?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I was being picky, if that makes sense. I
Right.
didn't realize that I had, one gentleman pointed out, you have really high expectations. And I didn't perceive it as
But here's the thing. I don't think they are high expectations.
No, I didn't take it as that. I said, you're right. I'm not accepting the minimum.
Yeah. I'm not accepting the minimum anymore. Okay. So let's talk about, that's what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is if I have expectations that my partner is emotionally available to me, that my partner is supportive, empathetic, a partner. And I'm also providing those things. Like that's a really important part of that. It's not a one-way street, right?
You cannot be massively passive aggressive and then be like,
but he doesn't do anything directly. Yeah, no, that's not what we're trying to say.
Nope.
But when I have that expectation, I don't think that my expectation is high.
Okay, that can be measured differently. That isn't an expectation that was even around 50 years ago. That's
understood.
That's really, so I guess it's not high. It's new.
It's new.
That's how I would
That's awesome. I love that you said that because what the article is talking about is that these men are complaining that they're single and they're lonely and they want to be partnered off.
Yes.
But all of these picky women have super high expectations that they be like emotionally available and help around the house.
Right.
So wouldn't it then mean logically that the onus would be on the unhappy party who wants something to make a change in their life to then get the thing that they want?
Yes, but if you're in a mindset of in PQ, it's a victim mindset. You've turned your power over to somebody else. And so that phrase alone, like how you were phrasing it, totally tells me that they're in a mindset. I don't have any control over this. Those women, they
have high expectations.
Which is an onus to they've already.
So then
they aren't aware that they have the power to shift this.
So then
they can't shift what they aren't aware of.
Here's my challenge. Here's my challenge, though. This is my challenge, though.
Oh, there's a pile of challenges.
There's a pile of challenges going on right now, and I'm just really struggling with the logic of this. I really am.
Yeah.
Because supposedly,
yeah,
men have this amazing ability to logic their way out of any problem. And, and if you talk to men, they certainly think they have that.
I believe, as a society,
you're trying to be way too politic here.
Well, I just believe as a society, we've put an amount of gender, because remember, I got a couple years on you.
Yeah, so I remember.
So those couple of you in that time,
even though I have more freaking gray.
Mine just hides in the blonde. In that time frame, though, I watched things.
Yeah, you can watch things shift.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've watched them shift, and so the men in my pool that are my age and so forth are part of that. For me, it comes back down to who didn't. I don't want to say train them, but what life experiences have they never had? So if the women,
what haven't they learned yet?
Right, and they always say the most influential person in a child's life is the person of the same sex as that child.
Right. So the father.
Right. So the father. So at that time, however many years ago, what was the roles within the environments that they grew up in? What did they observe and watch? And then what did they probably create in their first marriages? And have they been behaving under what boundaries? And I would say I'm being gracious in the fact that I think there's a lot of lack of awareness. So I think this article and this conversation is really good because there was just a gob of lack of awareness. And because I am in a relation, I am married to somebody who has age over me. So he grew up in an environment where literally moms did everything. They were stay-at-home moms.
Right.
They did everything.
Right. So and his first wife did everything.
Right. So there's been a lot of conversations between us about, and one of the things he's made me aware of is that he's lacked 50 years of skills building in a bunch of things. So he feels very stupid and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Learning it at this age.
Right.
And screwing up so much. He's like, if I were 18, I wouldn't care. I would bounce off of me.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm older and I'm still, the laundry's still turning pink every once in a while. Just stupid. He's like, I feel like such an idiot. And I have to, it also reminds me, I have to come from a space where if somebody, me, anybody, if we're learning a brand new skill in my teaching and in my communication, I have to be just as broadly open.
But here's the challenge I'm having with what you're saying. You're talking about amazing things that work really, really well one-on-one in a relationship. But you took that on because you love him.
Correct.
You took that on as a couple. You chose that together. He chose to do it, and you chose to help guide him through it.
Yes.
That is admirable and your choice.
But that's at a further place in the
relationship. What I'm struggling with is the expectation or the entitlement to a relationship.
I like that word.
The entitlement to a relationship when you're relying on your partner to choose just that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're relying on your partner to choose guiding you and teaching you through this, maybe you need to think about what you're bringing into that. If you're asking for so much up front.
Well, and as you say that and training and stuff, I think back to the fact, who doesn't just YouTube everything at this point? Right?
Well, this is my point. My point is,
you're right.
At what point is an individual responsible to change the circumstances of their own life? At what point, how many rejections from women do you have to get when you send them a dick pic to stop sending them dick pics?
Oh, that should be instantly. That
right?
Should just be instantly.
How many? I'm not talking about I want to learn, I want to change, but I just don't know how. I'm talking about I should have a relationship without that.
Without having.
Your expectations are too high for me. My expectations can be as high as I want for you. That and it is older thinking. It is past thinking. And that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Societally, we've moved forward,
We have.
but that's past thinking. But there are people who insist on retaining that thinking and then at the same time
play
the martyr about that thinking. And I have a challenge with that. I have a challenge with that. I do.
But I see that in so many other areas.
It's in so many places. Yeah.
But that's when you're not getting, that's about self-awareness. If you're not getting the result that you want after numerous attempts, that at what point are we doing the same thing expecting?
So you and I, this is a different conversation, but you and I are in a variety of spaces professionally.
Correct.
That have disproportionately have men in them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think about professional run-ins that I've had, challenges that I've had with other professionals, with service providers, with vendors, with professional services, with just on committees, with all kinds of things. Right. I'm not calling anybody out because that is not what this is for. No. What I'm saying is that I work really flipping hard to get into those rooms and into those situations.
Yeah.
And then I find myself surrounded by largely men who just didn't work that hard to get there.
Yeah.
That aren't maybe as strategic thinking, that maybe are a little short-sighted, that maybe and I find myself in this kind of level of resentment for that. I really do.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. I've definitely.
And so I liken this conversation to that conversation, almost as if those men are entitled to be there. They're supposed to be there just by virtue of their job title, which they maybe got because they earned and maybe because they knew somebody, which is how we all get jobs, right? So I'm not, that's not, it's just.
There's a difference between a scrapper.
There's a difference in effort required to get there.
Yeah.
There's a difference in effort required to get there.
Yeah.
I attend, these speaking sessions and these, guys who are third generation business owners talk about their entrepreneurial journey, and I want to throw something at them.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
I mean, so all of these things are kind of tied together for me, but the concept of this article, I think it's really captured, like it's become kind of a phenomenon on TikTok, on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
It's really captured people's imaginations because of the dichotomy, because the article in like 500 words or less sums up this dichotomy of simultaneous. I'm entitled to a relationship, but I shouldn't have to change anything to get one. And with the world changing around me,
it mirrors what is happening within business.
It mirrors what's happening in so many places. It
mirrors in a variety of places that this new uncomfortable.
Yes.
That a variety of people have been privileged to never experience.
Look, and I'm not exempt from that, right? No. As a white heterosexual cisgendered woman, I experienced a significant amount of privilege.
Right.
And so having those privileges questioned or challenged is really uncomfortable. And
it's good when it does.
I recognize what's happening and I'm working on it because the world is shifting. The world is changing.
And I want the world to change.
And I want it. Yes.
I want it to change. I want it to
shift.
It's
becoming, I hope, more equitable, more fair.
And more balanced.
Yes. So I would say we don't normally delve into these conversations because frankly, they're conflicts that have no purpose. It's not a men are from Mars, women are from Venus conversation. And that's not what we typically do on If These Heels. But I wanted to bring this topic because even though we've kind of skirted and shied away from some of these more, I would say, feminist leaning conversations, gendered conversations we have in the past, because, and in part because we don't want to add to the noise. We don't want to add to the conflict by overgeneralizing or over stereotyping. Yes. Not interested in that. But what's interesting about this article, and the reason I think it's different, is because it perfectly sums up this dichotomy that we're experiencing and that we see in business
Yeah.
every day in a
Yep.
variety of ways. And you know, the phrase mediocre white man does not, it's there for a reason. It's an overgeneralization, it's an over stereotype. It is not everybody. And it's
Mhm.
enough that it becomes a stereotype.
Yes.
It's enough that it becomes a generalization.
It becomes a category.
Right. And
There's
so
enough people in it.
so yeah. So just as always, when we're in when we're in this space and we say, you know, we try to have some sort of tip for people. We talk a lot about autonomy. We talk a lot about self-improvement. We talk a lot about accountability. We talk a lot about taking responsibility for our roles in things.
Mhm.
We work really hard to do that individually, and together.
We try to fail forward.
And we encourage everybody to do so. We encourage everybody to take individual autonomy or individual responsibility or accountability for the change that they want to see in their own lives. And I would include men in that as well.
Absolutely.
Because you can't walk until you can crawl.
And you got to start moving forward.
Yep.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us today on If These Heels Could Talk. We look forward to chatting with you again. We hope you've gained a little insight and started a conversation. Maybe this has pushed you to go out on social media and read a little bit more about this or check out the article, which we'll have linked in all of our spaces. But thank you for joining us, and we will catch